Welcome to your deep dive. We're diving into those government reports and data you sent us. You know, the ones about the U.S. mineral industry.
Yeah, tons of data.
Yeah. We're going to try to extract the juiciest trends just for you.
Exactly. We're focusing on the 2025 U.S. Geological Survey's mineral commodity summaries.
Wow.
Over 90 minerals.
That's a lot.
It is.
It's like we're getting a sneak peek into the future of minerals.
We are. That's a great way to put it.
So what's the big picture for U.S. minerals in 2024? What stood out to you?
Well, the total value of U.S. metal mine production increased to $33.5 billion.
Okay.
That's mostly thanks to gold, copper, and iron ore.
Uh-huh.
But there's this interesting detail. The capacity utilization stayed at 53%.
Capacity utilization. Okay. For those of us who don't speak mining, break that down for us. What does that tell us?
Good point. It's basically how much of our potential mining power we're actually using. So a flat 53% suggests there's room to mine more here in the U.S.
So we could be mining more if we needed to.
Exactly. And this ties into a big theme, our reliance on imports.
Right. The U.S. relies on imports for over 50% of 40 critical minerals.
That's right.
These are the 50 minerals that are highlighted in Table 4 of the report that are considered critical. What makes it so critical?
Well, these minerals are absolutely vital to the U.S. economy. And you know what else? They're vital to our national security. Any supply disruption could really impact things. Manufacturing, defense.
That makes this whole import reliance thing sound a bit unnerving.
It does.
Figure 2 really highlights how dependent we are.
Yeah.
We're talking China, Canada, then a whole mix of other countries for a lot of these
A
minerals.
lot of other countries. It raises concerns about our supply chain.
For sure.
You know, even though domestic recycling provided $9.7 billion worth of critical mineral,
Okay.
it's not a cure-all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For some minerals, like antimony and bismuth, recycling is our only LW source.
That's both amazing and kind of scary, putting all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I know.
So we've got this list of critical minerals, and we're heavily reliant on imports for many of them. But why should I, the average person, care about all this?
Well, think about it this way. These critical minerals are in almost everything. Your phone, your computer, your car,
Okay.
even solar panels and wind turbines.
Wow.
If the supply of those minerals is disrupted,
Yeah.
it could affect so many things, like the availability of all that stuff and the cost.
Okay, now it's hitting a little closer to home. So the value of domestic primary production of critical minerals actually went down by 24% in 2024.
Yeah, a big shift.
What caused that?
Well, a big factor is price fluctuations. Doesn't necessarily mean we're mining less, but it does make you wonder about our ability to ramp up production if we needed to.
Right, like we might have the resources, but if we need them fast and affordably,
Exactly.
that's a different story.
It is.
All right, let's look at some specifics. The report shows that the U.S. relied completely on imports for 12 critical minerals in 2024.
Yep.
Anything in Table 5 that jumps out at you?
Well, you've got arsenic coming entirely from China and all our cesium from Germany. It just highlights how complex those global supply chains really are.
Arsenic from China, cesium from Germany. You don't think about where those things come from until you see it laid out like that.
You don't.
It's like this hidden web that suddenly becomes visible.
Totally. And that's where we can start digging deeper into some individual mineral stories.
Okay.
So we're going to look at cobalt, lithium, gallium, gypsum, helium,
Oh.
and even iron and steel, you know, to really understand the trends.
Okay. I am ready for those aha moments.
Oh, wait,
Let's
what?
uncover those unique mineral mysteries. Okay, so let's jump into these individual minerals. The report mentioned cobalt production is booming globally, but prices are actually down.
Yeah, it seems kind of counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. What's going on there?
Well, we've got the Democratic Republic of Congo and Indonesia. They're leading cobalt mining, but then the refining process,
Yeah.
that's heavily concentrated in China.
So even though they're not mining most of the cobalt, China still has a lot of control by controlling the refining.
Exactly. And then you throw in U.S. tariffs on certain cobalt-containing products.
Wow.
It gets really complex. It's a whole web of factors.
Yeah. So why should I, just the average person listening to this, care about cobalt prices? How does this affect me?
Well, cobalt is essential for those lithium-ion batteries, right?
Yeah.
They power everything, our smartphones, electric vehicles.
Right.
So fluctuations in cobalt prices, they can definitely affect how much those everyday devices cost.
Oh, all right. Now I see why that matters. Speaking of batteries, the report showed lithium prices have been on a wild ride. up and down.
Totally a roller coaster.
What's driving that?
It all boils down to demand. A huge surge in demand for lithium, mainly for electric vehicles. The whole world is trying to secure that lithium supply.
So where does the U.S. fit in with all this? Are we big players in lithium?
We are investing heavily in domestic lithium production. But there's a lot of competition out there. Other countries with established lithium mining industries.
Sounds like a global race for lithium. Okay, now let's talk about gallium.
Ugh.
The report said it's entirely imported.
Yep. Mostly from Japan.
What's interesting about that?
Well, gallium. It's a crucial ingredient in semiconductors.
Semiconductors.
You know, those tiny, powerful components. They're basically the brains of all our electronics.
Got it.
And that connects directly to the global technology race.
Hmm.
Controlling those supply chains is super important.
It's amazing how these tiny minerals have such big implications globally. Okay, let's switch gears to something I thought I knew about. Gypsum. I always think of drywall, but the report said it's used for way more than that.
You're right, it's not just for construction. It's also used in agriculture as a soil amendment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and even in food additives
Huh.
as a calcium supplement.
I had no idea. So how does gypsum production tie into the bigger picture, the stuff we see in the news?
Well, think about the infrastructure bill, how it impacts construction. That means increased demand for materials, including gypsum.
Makes sense.
But on the other hand, you have the housing market. If that faces challenges, it could really impact demand for gypsum.
So even something like gypsum is tied to these bigger economic trends. Okay, now for something that caught my attention. Helium. We're
Yeah.
selling off our national helium reserve.
Yeah, big decision.
Is that wise?
It's complicated. Selling the reserve was part of a move to, privatize the federal helium system. It might have some short-term economic benefits.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder about the long-term availability and pricing of helium.
Yeah, especially for important things like healthcare and research.
Exactly.
Sounds like a tough balance.
Say.
Okay, let's wrap up our mineral exploration with iron and steel.
All right.
The report highlighted recycling.
Huge in this industry. The U.S. steel industry actually leads the world in steel recycling. In 2024, about 69 million tons of steel was recycled.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. But doesn't the steel industry also face some challenges meeting the demand for new steel?
Absolutely. It's a constant challenge,
Yeah.
Balancing that use of recycled steel with the need for new production, things like infrastructure projects, overall manufacturing growth, they really impact that demand.
Sounds like the steel industry is walking a tightrope, trying to be environmentally responsible while also keeping up with demand.
Yeah.
So are there any signs of hope for, reducing our reliance on those critical mineral imports? Anything positive?
There is. Remember that figure 2 we talked about?
The one that showed how much we rely on imports.
That one.
Oh.
Well, the U.S. is trying to reduce that dependence. There's this initiative, the Earth MRI project.
Earth MRI. Okay, what is that?
It's super cool. The U.S. Geological Survey is using advanced tech airborne surveys, hyperspectral imaging, to map out potential critical mineral deposits.
So we're basically scanning the Earth, seeing what we've missed?
Pretty much.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Why is this project so important?
It's about boosting domestic production of those critical minerals. If we can find and develop our own resources, we can reduce our dependence on those complex global supply chains.
That sounds like a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Very proactive.
It is.
Now, before we wrap up this part, one more mineral. Aluminum. It wasn't on the critical minerals list,
Right.
but the report did mention significant investments from the Department of Energy.
Yeah, a lot of attention on aluminum.
Why is that?
Well, it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And there's this big push for sustainable production. Those investments are focused on boosting domestic capacity for low-carbon aluminum.
So it's not just about having enough, it's about producing it in a way that's good for the environment.
Exactly. It all ties into the bigger picture, climate change, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., the competition with China.
It seems like aluminum reflects a lot of the themes we've been talking about. Sustainability, global competition, the need for these materials in the future.
Excellent.
This deep dive into U.S. minerals has been fascinating. Before we move on to the final part, let's recap some key takeaways for our listeners. We started by looking at U.S. minerals in 2024. We saw some growth in the industry, but also that heavy reliance on imports.
Right.
And recycling plays a key role. Then we zoomed in on those critical minerals.
The ones that are essential for the U.S. economy. And for our national security, too.
Yeah, and we uncovered some pretty surprising facts about how dependent we are on other countries.
It's true. Makes you think about potential vulnerabilities.
Yeah, like what if the supply chains are disrupted? Then we took those deep dives into those individual minerals.
Yeah. Cobalt, lithium.
The tech race connected to gallium.
Right.
Even those unexpected uses for gypsum.
Oh, yeah. Who knew? We also talked about that big decision to sell off the National Helium Reserve.
Definitely a move with potential benefits and risks.
For sure.
And that deep dive into iron and steel. U.S. is recycling a lot.
Leading the world.
Really impressive. But it's clear the industry needs to balance that with meeting the demand for new steel.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
And then we had that glimmer of hope with the Earth MRI project.
Searching for those untapped mineral resources right here at home.
So cool. Such a proactive approach to addressing those supply chain concerns. And then aluminum, not a critical mineral, but it's getting a lot of attention.
It is.
Seems like the focus is on making aluminum production more environmentally friendly.
It's definitely a trend we're seeing. Sustainability is a big factor now.
It really is. So what does all of this mean for our listeners? U.S. minerals are so much more than just rocks, right?
Absolutely.
They impact every aspect of our lives, technology, national security.
Everything.
This was just a starting point. We only scratched the surface of this complex landscape.
Yeah, we just got started.
The U.S. is trying to balance economic growth, environmental concerns, and securing access to these essential minerals. A big challenge.
It is a huge challenge. What do you think about all of this?
That's the question we want to leave you with today. Keep exploring those documents we talked about. There's so much information to be discovered.
Especially in those U.S. Geological Survey publications.
Yeah. Our deep dive might be over, but your exploration of this fascinating topic has just begun.